To paraphrase that guru of marketing, Marks and Spencer, this is not just any potato. This is a forgiveness potato. And on it I have inscribed the name of somebody I need to forgive. Now you might be wondering why I am holding a forgiveness potato, and all will be revealed. But before we do, let's just see by show of hands, who here has ever experienced a toxic work environment or knows somebody who has? Great, that's most of you. So that defeats the rest of the question, which is, and who here has never experienced a toxic work environment? Which would be none of you. So, once upon a time, there was a guru, a sage, and he had a student. And as in all these stories, the guru had a long beard that he would stroke to signify that he was important. And his pupil was not very bright. And one day the sage called his pupil unto him, and he said, "My son, here is an empty sack, a knife, and a bag of potatoes. And I want you to take the potatoes and think of anybody who has hurt you in the past few years and who you have not yet forgiven. Carve their name on each potato and put the potato in the sack." The student was used to this sort of thing, so he did it. And then the sage said, "And now, take the sack and carry it around with you for a week. Do not put it down. Come back in a week and we'll talk." Off went the student, sack on his back. And at first, it was pretty easy. But as the week went by, the sack seemed to get heavier and heavier. And it just got in the way. It was bothersome. And then the potatoes, because they were carved, they started to fester and rot and stink. And he stank too. At the end of the week, he came back to his master, and his master said to him, "So, what have you learned?" And the student said, "Well, master, I have learnt that not forgiving, it's like these potatoes. You're carrying around a heavy burden and it gets in the way and eventually it stinks." "Excellent," said the sage. He said, "And have you forgiven all these people?" "Oh, yes, master, I have forgiven them. It was not easy, but I have decided and I have forgiven them all." "Congratulations," said the sage. "And now, while you were walking around with that sack on your back, was there anybody who hurt you, who called you names, maybe even called you Stinky?" "Yes," said the student. "Yes, it's true." "Well," said the master, "I want you to take this empty sack that I happen to have here and this new bowl of potatoes and carve the name, and off you go." The student was horrified. Oh no, he knew what was coming. So I am not a medical doctor. I am a PhD sort of a doctor. And I did my PhD in esoteric studies, which is basically woo-woo weird shit, according to my partner. And my thesis was on how to create a model of leadership based on spiritual principles, actually Hawaiian spiritual principles. Because I wanted to create something. I'd experienced a lot of toxic environments. I'd experienced a toxic school environment, a toxic work environment, and some fairly toxic relationships. But I wanted to create a model of leadership that would be the antidote to toxic environments, the antidote to these sorts of places where we've all had toxic experiences. So I set about doing this, and it was it was interesting doing the research and then creating the model, because I had been bullied, badly bullied at boarding school. I went to boarding school when I was 6, and from the age of 7 to the age of 14, I was bullied fairly consistently. It was psychological, not physical. The behaviours that my bullies practiced were all the sorts of normal bullying behaviours that you might expect from a group of girls. And there was one that particularly hurt. I probably could have made it through all the rest, but the one that really got me was the ostracization, if I could even say it. Ostracization, we might call it ghosting or excluding, just acting as if you don't exist. Now, I don't know whether any one of you has had that experience, and I hope you haven't. But if you have, you'll know that it really, really hurts. And what hurt even more was the fact that the school leadership knew about this. I didn't tell my parents because I was ashamed, but the school leadership knew. And yet they did nothing. In fact, they made it worse, because as I was bullied, my behavior got worse. And as my behavior got worse, I would be bullied. I ended up being blamed for a lot of things that had absolutely nothing to do with me. And their punishment for me was to keep me apart from the other girls. I wasn't fit to be among them. So when I'd been badly behaved, as they thought, they would make me have my dinner, my lunch, my meals outside the dining room, separate table, right by the door, so that everybody would know that I had been a bad girl. I went through this, I survived. I walked out of school at the age of 16, and I really thought that I had left it behind me. I totally believed I'd left it behind me. Outwardly, I was extrovert, I was confident. Inwardly, I was a bag of I don't know what. But I managed, and nobody was bullying me, so it was okay. Until I got to a point in my late 30s where that old toxic situation started to catch up with me. I'd lost my confidence. I would be questioning everything. I didn't believe I had a right to be doing whatever I was doing. I didn't believe that I was intelligent. I successfully completed my A-levels at 16. I am not stupid, but I believed that I am stupid. That's what this toxic environment had done to me all those years ago, but I didn't even know it, and I didn't make the link. So I went on a mission to find a way of improving my life. And I did everything. I did Kundalini yoga, I did rebirthing, I did hypnosis, primal scream therapy, that's interesting, a whole bag of stuff. None of it worked. And things came to a crunch when I was working as a management consultant. And the organization that I was working for, they got a client. It was one of those change management situations. Somebody's talked about these projects already this evening. It was one of those change management situations which was never going to work. But hey, they were going to pay us, so in we went. And as it happened, I wasn't the project manager, but I was the face of my organization with this client team for the first few weeks of the project. And the first 2 weeks, it was excellent. We had a great rapport. It was wonderful. They were enjoying, they loved what I was teaching them, what I was showing them. Everything was brilliant. And I don't know to this day what the switch was that flicked, but a switch flicked. And suddenly, they started to bully me. And the bullying mirrored everything that I had experienced at school, right down to the ostracization and the lying. So they'd tell me, they'd give me the wrong time and place for a meeting, that sort of thing. So there was that from the client side. And then there was my own project manager, the leadership, who, when I said, you need to get me out of this project, it's not good for me and it's not good for the project, said, not going to happen. I haven't got anybody of your expertise, you have to stay. But when the project manager of the client team said, we want her out, we're done with her, said, oh yes, I'll take her out. Yeah, we'll replace her. And they didn't. And the result was that I was so triggered from my previous experience that I ended up in burnout and depression. I am the walking, talking, living embodiment of what happens when you're in a toxic environment, particularly a toxic workplace, and you don't do anything to resolve the issues that have emerged for you in that toxic place. There is a whole body of research now into toxic workplaces, and it's very clear that we it's not everybody, thankfully, who has this experience, but for a lot of people, the toxic workplace causes burnout, it causes clinical depression, it causes psychological problems, and it can cause physical problems as well. So the toxic workspace, we know, is not good for the individual, and it's not good for the organization. McKinsey's did a study in the US, and they found that 60% of what they call, it's basically impact on the bottom line, 60% of negative impact on the bottom line, so falling turnover, falling productivity, increased staff attrition, increased staff ill health, 60% of that is caused by workplace toxicity. So there's implications for us as individuals, and there's implications for organisations. And organisations bloody well ought to be doing something about it, if you ask me. So in my journey to find the magic solution, the magic potion, one of the things I'd done was I'd attended an NLP training. And this NLP training, neuro-linguistic program, helped a bit. But what had really started to help me was that the guy who trained us was into Hawaiian spirituality. And he taught us two basic Hawaiian principles. One was a process to help you let go of old limiting decisions. So I had a limiting decision that I was a stinking bag of dog's doo-doo. And using his process, I was able to clear myself of that belief. I was able to clear myself of beliefs that I'm not good enough, that I don't belong, that I'm always the outsider, that I'm not lovable. The list is long. But I was able to use that process, and it was powerful for me. But what was even more powerful for me was forgiveness. The Hawaiian forgiveness process, ho'oponopono. Who's heard of it? Ho'oponopono. A couple of you. So there are various versions. There's probably as many versions of it as there are Hawaiian families in the Hawaiian Islands. A lot of people, if they have heard of it in the UK, it's the Joe Vitale version called the forgiveness prayer, the Hawaiian forgiveness prayer. I do not work with the Hawaiian forgiveness prayer. I work with a Hawaiian forgiveness process. It's got more bite than the prayer. So working with forgiveness started to help me in my recovery from burnout and clinical depression. And I learned that I could go to Hawaii because there was a 10-day workshop. Who wouldn't want to go to a 10-day workshop in Hawaii to learn more of something that was working brilliantly for them? And I could make it tax deductible. So off I went. I was only going to go once. Nearly 30 years later, I go twice a year and I teach. It's made such a profound difference in my life. And that's why I want to share forgiveness with other people. That's why I want to help individuals forgive the people in the toxic work environment who have hurt them and undermined them in so many different ways. And that's why I want to have forgiveness in organizations. But people are a bit resistant to forgiveness. I understand why. It's hard. It can be really hard to forgive. How many of you find it easy to forgive? Couple. How many of you find it really, really hard? More. And how many of you, it's like, mostly I can forgive. But that bastard over there, don't get me started. So it is hard in general. But possibly the even bigger reason why people don't practice forgiveness is that they think it's condoning. They think it's condoning bad behavior. They think it's letting people off the hook. And why would you let people off the hook? And the third reason, I think, is probably the desire for revenge. They hurt me, I'm gonna hurt them. The problem with that one is half the time they never even know that you still have the revenge, that you still have the passion and the dislike. They don't even know it. Forgiveness is not condoning. If you see racism, sexism, discrimination, unkindness, if toxic workplaces, we all should be calling it out. And yes, sometimes there are safety issues. Sometimes you have to be rather brave. But if we don't call it out, nothing changes. You're in a toxic workplace and nobody says anything, nothing changes. So it's not condoning, and we need to be calling it out much more. The other thing about forgiveness is that, yeah, you might think that holding on to your feelings of revenge is a good thing. But the truth is, unforgiveness, which is what the psychologists call not forgiving, unforgiveness acts in your body like stress, chronic stress. And the longer you hold on to your unforgiveness, the more chronic the stress becomes. And we all know the impacts of stress in terms of physical health, mental health. Forgiveness is a brilliant solution to a particular set of problems, and it can really, really liberate you. So what I'd like to end by doing is, if it's okay with you, I'd like to take you through a little forgiveness process. A couple of words just to warm you up for this. And by the way, you don't have to participate. If you don't want to, just sit and enjoy the music, have a little chill. So the forgiveness process that we're going to use, I want you to think of somebody who, it's not a huge issue. It's not the person who hurt you worst in all the world. It's the person who cut you up on the drive here. It's the child who won't tidy up. It's the somebody who's irritated you on telly. It's the dog next door that never stops barking. Never stops barking, sorry. That sort of level of offence. So I want you to think of somebody like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go through this process. I would say that forgiveness does not mean that you have to like or even love the person. If you don't like them after you've done the process and you've done the forgiving, it's absolutely fine. Forgiveness does not mean that you have to even have contact with them unless you have to, because sometimes we do. It's your choice. Afterwards, you want to connect, you can connect, but you don't have to. And that is such a liberating thing. So let's hit the music, baby. So this is actually, my partner has composed this, so it's especially for the work that I do. So let's start with a little bit of breathing. We won't do much of it. We're going to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And the out breath is twice as long as the in breath. And the reason that we do this is partly to prepare you, but also because it kicks into your polyvagal system and brings in relaxation. So breathing in and out. And in and out. And in and out. In and out. And in. And you may start to feel the relaxation through your body. And we'll do just 3 more. In, out, in, out, in, out. And it's up to you whether you continue to breathe like this, if you like the relaxation, or whether you want to go back to normal breathing. So what I'd like to invite you to do is bring to mind the person that you want to forgive. And as you bring to the mind, imagine a stage. Now this is your stage, so you can design it in whatever way you like. Just imagine this stage way down in front of you and beneath you. And invite your person onto the stage. And then allow a healing, white, loving light to come down through your crown. Fill your body up with love, healing energy, totally feeling your body up. And you become so full of this love, healing energy that it pours out over your skin because you're overflowing it. And overflow it from your heart to heal up the stage and the people, the person on the stage. And allow this energy flow to continue throughout the process. Trust your unconscious mind, it knows how to do this. So allow the flow. And now it's time to have a conversation with your person. Say to them what you need to say to them so that you can forgive them. Now, it so happens that we never know how we might have affected or offended other people. Somebody once told me that they couldn't learn from me because I reminded them of a school dinner lady. Who knew? So we never know. So say to them what they need, you need to say to them, and have them say to you what they need to say to you. And this process is quick. And when you've said what you need to say and had them say what they need to say, then say to them, please forgive me. I forgive you. And you'll know the forgiveness is complete because when you invite the person to leave the stage, they will leave the stage. And if they don't, well, it might mean there's more work to be done. And while you're just doing that process, I'm going to send you some energy from the highest feminine energy on the planet to deepen and accelerate the healing process and the forgiveness. I forgive you. Please forgive me. And have the forgiveness complete, both ways. And if you're done already, just relax and enjoy the music. And then invite the person to step to one side, and like I say, you may find that they do, and you may find that they don't. And either way is okay. And take a look at the stage and notice whether there are any dark spots, any dark energy. And if there aren't any, just relax and enjoy the music. But if there are, imagine taking a giant, energetic brush or broom and sweeping the stage, sweeping all the darkness into the light. Sweeping it all away. And when your stage is swept and clean, it's time to cut the cords of connection with this person. You can reconnect with them anytime you want to, just by thinking of them, or touching them, or talking to them. And if you don't want to reconnect, you don't have to. It's your choice. So just imagine those cords of connection that you have with this person. And they might be thick cords or they might be thin cords. And then imagine a laser blade of light coming from above your head and just cutting the cords wherever they may touch your body, all the way around. And as they cut the cords, you may notice the little ends of the cords just dissolving away, just like little umbilical cords. And as the cords dissolve, just take a moment to appreciate what you've done And now start to bring yourself back into the present moment. And while you're doing that, we'll fade the music if we can. Let's just fade the music if we can. Thank you so much. So just coming back into the here and now. I'm not going to debrief you all, but how many people feel lighter or feel that they actually forgave the person? Yeah, several of you. If you didn't, it's absolutely fine. It's just an indication there's more work to be done. And if you want to get in touch, drjanelewis.com, or jane@drjanelewis.com, just please do get in touch. I'm really happy to help. That's what I'm here to do. The young man gasped because he realized that this was going to be a heavy burden. But Master, he said, if it goes on like this, people are always hurting us. We're always going to be having to forgive. I'm always going to have potatoes. Yes, said the sage. But as long as you keep forgiving and you keep practicing forgiveness, the potatoes and the carvings and the stink will have no impact on you. You will be free. Forgiveness is not destroying the past. Forgiveness is letting go of the past. It's healing the past, healing those experiences that you need to heal. And when we heal those experiences, it sets us up to create a more beautiful, a more brilliant, a more wonderful future, whether it's in the workplace or whether it's outside. Thank you very much for listening.